It's been a lot of open, vast, monotonous nothing. Let's say track there. Rocks are gonna force a deer. You got the down tree, you got that branch there, you got that log there, and it's gonna pinch them right through there. That goes back where that big rub was. Had one of the biggest typical 8-pointers I've ever seen. It's August 6th over here on public land, and anticipation is high. Driving over here, listening to music, bumping, drinking my coffee. There's a feeling that, you know, going hunting or scouting, when you're in that mode in your car, it's just like a vibe. I don't know how to explain it. If you feel it, you know what I'm talking about. We're not too far from access right now, even though it was a hike to get in here. Got a nice scrape licking branch here. I'm not too far from the road, so I think this trail is paralleling the road, and obviously you have some elevation here. This area has a ton of oak trees. I mean, food is plentiful, as you can tell. Cover is plentiful. When it comes to finding bigger bucks for me, it's in and around doe areas, or if you can maybe find some ag that's not too far off and that they're maybe bedding up on public and feeding on some ag and private. That's worked for me in the past, but typically it's gonna be in and around these doe bedding areas or kind of major terrain features. Right now, going back to a spot that I bumped into some good sign last year. I mean, this is just destroyed. This is perfect, right where I'm headed. I saw some rocks flipped. Definitely some bear in here, but I get them on my cameras, and they also rip down my cameras, especially cell cameras. I don't know what it is, if they sent something about the reception and something like that, I don't know. But my SD cams, they pretty much leave alone, and I hang all my cams high. But when it comes to cell cams, it's a different story. Yeah, we got some fresh poop right there. Flies are after it. So, good stuff. And I know does can bed obviously anywhere in this. So it's really tough to isolate certain like little bedding pockets. But you do your best based on sign. Like, here's a scrape. More trail, another trail coming down here. It's a pretty solid scrape. But we're gonna keep working into this first camera spot. So here's a big rub I found this past spring. Solid tree. I'm in here targeting one specific buck. I don't know if he made it or not, but I'd like to hope that he did. He was probably a 3.5, 4.5-year-old. I think he was barely a 10-pointer. Last year I called Captain Hook. We'll give this a shot either here, because I think that's him. There's also a scrape over there. And really there's a faint trail coming right past that, coming this way, back to that scrape, and there's actually another faint trail that kind of comes down and goes towards that scrape over there. There's some old poop right there. But I was just, not any major terrain feature here that you'd necessarily see on Onyx too well, just based off of if that rub was more, you know, on this side of the rub, I may assume that his direction was more up and down this terrain, versus he was walking this trail, hit that, and then kind of kept working up that direction. And the reason I came to this area was because this is essentially a massive bowl, okay? And there's a creek, not much of one, but there's a creek, I don't know, hundreds of yards away that way, that I picked him up on a camera last year, and then another camera farther up. So I was just trying to figure out more of his area, even though he was daylight on both of those cameras, where I could potentially kill him this year if he's still kind of on that same pattern. But I was just trying to learn a little bit more about him, and I was just basically done. Didn't really find much other sign this past spring, and then I was just kind of walking down through here, and all of a sudden out of nowhere I spotted this rub just kind of in the middle of nothing in a sense. But I felt I wanted to walk this side and even across the road, because there's a big ridge system up across the road, and I thought he's probably crossing that road like no problem, checking those doe bedding areas up on the hill over there. And I did look over there and I found some decent sign, but I think with all the daylight pictures I had of him last year and the frequency of them, he had to be spending most of his time over in this chunk over here somewhere. And I really don't think that was a little deer that did this. That's a hammer rub. I'll walk by a lot of rubs in the season. You'll see that I'll just be like, I don't think it's a big enough deer. I really have to believe that there's a big deer in an area, because there's a lot of places that there aren't too many bigger, more mature deer. And if you're targeting them, you have to walk by a lot of sign to find the right sign where you think there's some big deer. Scrapes over there. You got the trail that comes from the scrape right here, and then he goes up. And there's a trail here, comes down that way. So instead of just putting it over there, I can maybe position it right in this pocket here. Maybe put it up on that tree there. Camera 1. I'm 6 foot. And that's my arm extended. That's about where I like to hang all my cameras. Whew, I'm a long ways away from where I was just at previously, where I hung that cell camera. But I'm up more on top now. You know, there's like kind of a slant to where I was just at. So followed that up. Now I'm up at the top. And I kind of looped around to get on top because it's a little bit easier, and then I'm going to drop into this next spot. This next spot is kind of a bench off the very top. Right now, I'm pretty much at the top of this big mountain range. The bull's behind me, okay? And then the ridge is like where I'm at now, heading like this way. And then the ridge is back behind me, or the bull's back behind me. But bumping into some sign here, I'm going to flip the camera around. So there's kind of an inside corner up this way. You got the ridge that runs this direction, and then the road eventually ends and you get an inside corner up here. Working out this way, and I could probably hang a camera in here. I mean, there's definitely obviously scrape right there, trail, deer and human probably. About 100 yards from my camera location where I want to put this. Yeah, they're in here right now. Deer, I don't know. At least doe. This is headed right to my camera location. I'm pumped. And there's some fresh acorns nearby, which I'm assuming. No. Not that there's a lot of, major terrain features up here, but there's a lot of rocks, and rocks dictate movement up here in these more monotonous areas than anything. Look, you can see rocks there, so that's pinching deer through here. You got a scrape right there. I could hang the camera here. And even if I'm not hanging the camera on scrapes, I usually do kind of rough the ground up a little bit and try to keep them fresh if they're the area that I am gonna hang a camera. Because the more use and activity you can get in an area, bucks marking sign, I think it helps. This goes down to my camera location. To the bench. Look at the scrapes there. I almost feel like somebody's camera's got to be here. It looks so beat up right there. Look at that. Good looking branch. I mean, it's down to the dirt. Yeah, look at this. Yeah, this tree here is where I had my camera last year. Looks like it had better days. And there's my old scrape, and I used to put it on that tree. So, two options. And I like this because you can see there's a bunch of acorns on the ground. Not any fresh ones. But there would be a trail that would come through there, and they'd hit this. And there's also more depth. You can see this bench goes, I don't know, almost, I mean, it looks kind of short here, but it's, you know, it cuts down a little bit, but it gets steeper farther over there, almost maybe 100 yards or something. Well, I guess I'm gonna try that upper spot and see how we do. I mean, they're still working through here. Part of me wants to use this. I guess I'll follow it up and put the camera up higher. Yeah, there's trail goes there, the one I actually came down on. We got two trails. Not far from where I used to get all the inventory of bucks. This one cuts this way, down and in there. There's fresh trail or tracks on it. That's gonna block them there. So it should funnel them right into this camera. But camera's all set up over there. Just gonna turn it on and off to the next spot. So I close the camera and I'm just getting up more back on the flat from that last spot. Stepping over this log, tripping over this, going here, going there, going through some thick stuff, and step over this log and I kind of stumble, and just about that time, something, I feel it right above my ear, like right here. In the millisecond of time that I feel something there and I go to like brush it off, something freaking stings me. Couldn't believe it. Good thing I'm not allergic to any of that stuff. Just about at this next spot, and I have to make a decision. Do I put, I ran a cell here last year. I think I'm just gonna put an SD cam here this year because I know the time frame that I'll be hunting this buck if he made it. The buck that I was after in this area, who I got on the last camera location, just like lower on that bench, was a buck I call Rocky. Last year, I'm guessing he was probably a 3.5-year-old, probably 120 to 130, and it seemed to be that on one specific wind, that was kind of like the ridge runs this way. I'm actually just gonna flip the camera around. So the ridge runs this way, and I called him Rocky because of all these rocks here. And this goes for a ways. You can see it down and through the woods there more, and it keeps going. But this is kinda, it may seem subtle, but you can't see this on Onyx or anything. But this is what you sometimes have to look for in bigger, like big woods mountain country, rock features, because deer are not gonna go through that. Like they just don't like to. Now, do you have rocky areas that they find a little crevice, and would they walk through it? Yes. And those can be pinch points. But this is more of a, it funnels them up along the edge here. And I had the camera over here, and they'd come and funnel up this way. And I'll show you some of the sign as we go looking at another spot down there. That I probably wouldn't hunt down there because of wind direction, and I think it'll be blowing into more of the bedding, because I'd kind of hunt the top of this and have it blow over these rocks, where if they were coming maybe from that way or from below, that my wind would kind of blow back. But if I'm like right in there where I may move this camera, I don't want to just blow them out of there. So here's the end of the rocks. Onyx says it's 75 yards, but I could put a camera here. But if I follow this out, there's a lot of debris there, so it's gonna force movement, as the trail says. Looks like something snapped this laurel off there. But we got trail coming through there, trail coming through there, and that's probably where those doe, I was missing those doe, because instead of taking that trail up to the top of the rock bluff, they'd probably take this one, squeeze through here. Look at the historic rub. Squeeze through here. Oh, jeez. Come through there and out that way. And it looks like there's more rocks there. You also have a scrape here. I mean, there's so much going on right here. But that morning that I saw him, if I was right here, where we have trail, scrape, like 2 trails coming in there, some going that way, I mean, just everything converges right here. I never would have seen him that morning, because he would have been 100 yards that way, and he was just taking the ridge. Never would have seen him. I wish this didn't run this way, honestly. And it went over to the tip of those rocks. Got my trusty little stick up there. There's an X in trails here, and that scrape is just over there. And there's trails that run behind this, as you can see, but you just can't cover everything. Like that other camera is, I think, maybe 200 yards away from here, and I think I'd consider that clustering in the big woods. A lot of trails converge here. I just pick one of the X's here in the trail that I know he's used in the past, so it should catch him at some point. All right, we're getting pretty close to my next spot. Historic rub though. Another historic rub's in here, I think. Right there, right there. So this isn't where I'm hanging the camera, but again, we got rocks. Got a long running ridge. Still a part of that. Getting kind of towards the end of it here. But again, forcing movement. You got to put the time in to find this stuff and the effort. Historic rub. Here we go, now we're getting on a more defined trail. Okay. Ran a camera here on that tree last year. Nice laurel. Had one of the biggest typical 8-pointers I've ever seen or had on camera right here on this scrape, and it looks like something's kind of been in it, knocked some stuff down. Have to check my surroundings to make sure there's no other cameras, because I do run into quite a few cameras up here, but it looks like stuff has messed around here a little bit. And there's another scrape that's the branch got demolished, I guess, by that branch that fell. But we are kind of towards the end of this ridge. It's been a lot of open, vast, monotonous nothing. And then down here, you're on the upper edge of a bunch of cover. And I didn't have a lot of that 8-pointer, and I had some other bucks, but I put the camera there because the buck sign was there last year. We've had forced movement. You can see rocks, which is going to force and concentrate deer. We had a well-defined trail that cuts down through here, and also a trail that comes from that direction, running that upper edge of the cover. But there are some historic rubs in here. A little diversity with all these, I don't know, I guess it's ash, I'm not really sure, or birch, I don't really know. I just know they're not oak. But there were a couple beds in here last year. We got historic rubs in here. And I know there's a scrape that way that was pretty active, but we got historic rubs. But I was wondering if I could move the camera instead of just leaving it on that scrape, which I only got that buck once, you know, and I don't know if he made it. I can't imagine what he'd look like this year if he did make it. But he went through, hit the scrape, and I think kind of headed that way. He definitely didn't, it didn't seem like he went that way. But we also have a trail that runs this, comes up here and meets scrape trees up there, so they come through there. Oh, I thought I heard something blow. I'm really pretty noisy out here. I'm kind of power walking from one location to the next. I'm staring at the ground, watching for rattlesnakes. And I probably miss bumping a lot of deer. In season, I slow down a lot more. Deer definitely went down this way. I'm gonna cluster 3 cameras in this section, but they're actively using this little pinch. You got rocks, you got more rocks, historic rub, and I think there's another hammer rub down here that I pinned in the off season when I was here with Dustin. Decisions. I could come back. I'll come back to this. I hope this rub still looks as impressive as it was. It's gotta be like right on this trail. So it was literally just right by it. I was just on that trail coming this way, and then I cut, and I found it was right here. It doesn't look like much now, but you can see there's some pretty good gouges there. And yes, the bark is falling off, but I swear Dustin saw it with his own eyes, and so did I. It was a good rub. So right up on top of those rocks is where that picture was on the laurel tree where I got that 8-pointer. I came down, I think, right there, started cutting that way, and then I started looking for the rub and came back this way. And we got this great trail, which really 1, 2, and they're on this right now. So I wonder trail coming this way. I'm gonna see if I can find a trail that meets that pinch right there and find where these connect. Poop, a little bit of probably a scrape or something hit once. I'm gonna get back on that more defined trail. So right here, scrape, defined trail, going this way, another paralleling trail just down there. Wish they'd converge here somewhere. We gotta be getting close. Historic rub. Historic rub. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find there where these connect. So I had a pin here to put the camera. Just a little different from where it was last year. Still in that upper level. Scraped trees. Over there, I can see it from here. This trail comes in through here. Trails go down. I just came up trails. Trails go down. Down that way. Yeah, scrape trees right there. Let's say track there. Rocks are gonna force a deer. You got the down tree, you got that branch there, you got that log there. And it's gonna pinch them right through there. That goes back where that big rub was. And you also got a pretty major trail coming this direction, headed that way. I'm gonna have another camera that way anyways, and I think another camera that way. I'd have to look at Onyx again. And this will be camera location 4 for the day. One quick tip is take your phone and hold it up on the camera like that in selfie mode, and you can use it to see where your camera's looking. Obviously do more of a check than that, but I think Dustin showed that to me and it's been super helpful. Right there's the camera. Obviously I'm probably gonna miss that trail, but you go up that way, and you also got another one that's going through there. Anyways, I just noticed this guy. And look at this trail I'm exiting on. Look at that. Tracks in it, right there. And that's gonna catch that. You try to pick the best spots there are, but you're gonna miss them regardless. Hey, look at these trails. That's probably a spot I'd hunt. I mean, these Y go that way and that way. But if you follow that trail, you have that down tree, it's gonna push them right in front of that camera. Should be a killer location. I'm freaking fired up right now. Getting close to the camera location. Big rock bluff. We got a trail. Something's using it right now. And it should lead right to what I'm calling is the scrape tree. Looking for a laurel tree. Another tip. Take pictures and add them into your Onyx. I love to do that. Got the pin spinning in circles here. It's got me spinning in circles. Laurel tree, laurel tree. I see laurel over there. "15 yards. Ah ha ha. Bingo. Let's see what we find. Is it active? Is it not? I kicked it up in the winter. Really not too impressed. Son of a gun. That there is a bed. Small depression, probably maybe a fawn or something. Doe minimum. Little activity trail I was following this way. I came in from that direction, but basically in the middle of nowhere. They can't see, there's no topography. This is why when I say there's not really defined doe bedding areas, this is exactly it. Oh, there's another bed right there. Completely left alone other than crazy people like me up here trudging around. Yep, bed right there. Zero visibility. You could walk by them 30 yards away. Never know they're there if they stayed still. And when it comes to, you know, I don't think that's a mature buck living there, but think of guys trying to drive this. It's not going to be easy for them. Deer survive up here. It's tough hunting. All reasons why. And this is what you can look for in your own properties. There's some fresh poop. They're actively in here. But you look for properties that are vast, big, and not super open. Open areas, properties that are extremely open, just all mature timber that don't have a layer of, you know, laurel or blueberry bush or I don't know, different stuff like that out east. That will create older deer, and older deer typically equal bigger antlers. But nice little opening here. Looks like an area that could be scrapes. Good trail right through there. Looks like a scrape. Definitely some tracks going through here. I gotta bring out my phone real quick and see. Yeah, there's a scrape right here. Oh, literally following that trail, stumbled in led right to where I wanted to be anyways. I got a pin here. Let's see if we have service for a cell camera. If not, oh well. Yeah, looks like majority action goes right through there, but I'll walk around here, break this little area down. Nice to find a big old shed out here. Oh yeah, there's not a shed, but beautiful scrape. Any cameras? Any cameras? That's my next question. Something that looks good and freshened up. Usually somebody's kicked it open and there can be a camera. There isn't, so. But I remember going to a spot last year. I was like, oh my gosh. What a scrape. I mean, the branch was torched. There's a scrape there. I walked over to it, took a picture. I think I sent it to Dustin or something. And then just about that time, oh, there's a camera. I said, well, not putting a camera there. Another scrape here. I mean, talk about seclusion though. Probably stick it on that, I guess. And there's a trail coming this way. I mean, there's literally like a a triangle of trails. That way, this way, going that way. I am shocked. 3 bars on this thing. When I like to set up my scrapes, shoulder height, or like chest height, is where these branches are, that they're broken off. They're not broken off way up there, there. And this scrape over here. I think the ideal height is like chest height. I'm gonna set that camera up and get the heck out of here. I mean, you sneak in here, if there's a buck that is even semi-regular on this camera, and I can sneak in here October in this cover, I think I'll have a pretty consistent win. It's pretty flat. But I was looking at trees. If it's too much north, I won't be able to do it. But if it's enough west or something, I can get in the backside there, like that tree. Or something over there. I like that shooting lane. And I'll work on this right as I'm leaving, figure out a tree. This is something I usually am pretty lazy with and don't do, but I need to get better at it. But pick out a tree, try to drop a pin, even though Onyx will probably have me spinning in circles anyways, following the pin that stands still and it goes. You know what I'm talking about. I think that paracord blends in nicely. And when I do this, I have the stick up there, obviously to get the angle, but I'll tie up the bottom first as tight as I can, and then the top kind of like just kind of hangs there or sits there. There's something on my leg. Kind of sits there, and then you can fit whatever stick you want behind it under it. And I think I'll have time for one more camera, and it's kind of towards the car. But if I wasn't worried about people ever, or you know, deer seeing the cameras, which I don't like when deer see the cameras, I think they tend to react negatively to them when they're not familiar with them. Especially, I also have bear issues, so hanging them higher helps. I always go high. Oh boy, do we have a surprise here. Cody and Dustin would be so happy. They call that buck shit. Let us know in the comments if you guys agree with that or not. I tend to think it isn't, but they think anytime you find a clump of shit, here's another, that it's buck shit. Didn't get far from that still camera, so that's a good sign if it is buck shit. I'd like to find a participation trophy today, as I like to call them, even when you find like just a little shed or something like that. I like big participation trophies as well. Whoa, look at these mushrooms. I'm finding all kinds of things up here. Look at those. I'm no mushroom expert, so I don't know what the heck they are, but look at those things. I gotta bring up Onyx and find my direction out of here, though. Holy cow. I've never seen anything like that. A lot of deer activity up here, though, or something's working through here quite a bit. I looked over there because I was like, oh, what's with that all scuffed up? Not sure. However, I did find a little shed. Not right here, I don't know what this all is about. Wouldn't you believe it? I found a shed. Do you guys see it? Look at this old thing. Oh boy. Here's my participation trophy I was talking about. And onward. This is going to be my stealthy access. Well, here's what's left of the scrape that I had a camera last year, and let's say who was on this. We had Rocky and Captain Jack, or Captain Hook, on this scrape. I had the camera there. A lot of does early, really no buck, and then I leaving cam soak can pay off when you're just getting a bunch of doe. And then yeah, I started getting bucks on this pretty frequently. Not a whole lot of daylight buck movement, at least right on the scrape, but as you can see, there's a lot of space in here for bucks to roam here and not hit this exact scrape. It's not much, but bucks are gonna be cruising this. This is like a lot of doe bedding along this side hill. It gets more of an angle out that way, but good location here. I'm not the only one that's kind of found this though. There is some like a stand or two that I've seen here, not too far away from this location, but I don't think it's enough pressure this far in to be concerned about people. I've spent more time hunting public. I care less about seeing tree stands more than I did when I initially started. A buck a few years ago, I shot him and he crashed and died. And from where the buck died, I could see someone else's stand and I never even knew it was there. So I'm not hanging a camera there because that laurel's dead. That dried up branch isn't gonna hold scent. I stumbled into this over here. I'm gonna have to get out my phone again. You have a trail coming down, as you can see there. But over here, there should be another convergence of trails and a scrape. Probably right where those laurels are there. Balloons don't lie. Like I was talking about, in the webbing of my hand creates kind of a bowl. It's faint, but brings scent through here, and bucks use this. One of my lower ones, but somebody could definitely cut it down or reach it if they really wanted to and stick their foot in there or something. Another reason why I like paracord, you can pick the color. Not too many people will pick that out from this backside unless they're looking at every tree, but typically every person's gonna walk by it. But we got a mock made over there. Took everything from me just to try to get a little pee out. But branches are at the right height. It should take, I'm pretty sure. There's deer activity. This is all scuffed up in here anyways. There's trails that come down this way. There's a trail that actually comes out right near it, right through there. And there was already kind of tracks and maybe a faint scrape there from last year, like something hit it once. But maybe red oak right in here, or any of these red oaks will start dropping and we'll get more activity. Literally just coming down this from where the camera is, I don't know how far up there it is. I don't know, 100 yards or so, or more. 100 to 200 yards. Coming down this trail, it's very worn trail, just following it, and all of a sudden I get to this and I'm like, holy crap. That thing's the size of, thing's 6 foot wide. Down to the roots, so much shit in this thing. I mean, deer are running this right now. I mean, you can see it through there. You know what? I got extra cameras. I'm gonna throw one on that. The saga continues. Literally just threw the camera down. And I looked behind me because I was gonna put the camera on this tree. There's a strap. And over at that strap is a cell camera. I'm still gonna throw a camera up here, up high. Maybe on that big whopper there. We'll see, one of these two. So that wraps up everything for today. I think it was a good day. Really stoked. Hopefully that cell camera works. Feels good to be out. Season's coming.